What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, alongside my guy. You all know him, the greatest and famous Johnny Main.
Only on the internet, you know.
Well, you see him in real life, get an autograph from him as
That's
well.
right, baby. That's right.
Say hello to the people.
What up? What up? Week 13, living the American dream. Don't be scared. It's time to get busy here today, folks.
Wait, this is your American dream?
This is my American dream right here, man. You know what I mean? I'm just a common man. Shout out to Dusty Rose, you know, RIP, man.
Well, for all the commoners coming in, welcome to week 13 of the Fantasy Football Show. The DFS, the props, the bets, the picks, and you guessed it, the starts and the sits. Any questions you guys have, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll get to them at a timely manner. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please do so. We want to get our subscriptions up so that we give you guys a ton of more value, a ton more things to bring to you guys as well. Again, we're going to go right into things. So without further ado, we ain't going to waste no time here because we have a ton of stuff to get to. First game of the slate already, we're going to talk about Chargers at the Falcons. Chargers 7-4, Falcons 6-5. The line is Chargers -1.5. This game is a get right spot, hopefully, for either team, right? Chargers after that loss against the Ravens this past Monday night, and then the Falcons, before they had their bye week, got clobbered by Denver. So one of these teams have to come out with a win, clearly, and both of these teams need the win for both of their respective conferences. Chargers are still a couple games behind the Chiefs for their division. Like, they could potentially catch them, but it's looking not likely. But they still need to win because the AFC conference is still pretty stacked. Denver currently has a 7-5 record. They'll be looking at this game as well because they lose this game. Denver wins on Monday night. They're now a game ahead of them in the overall conference standings for a playoff spot. The Falcons, same thing. They got to keep winning for their own conference and mainly for the division, because if they don't win this week and the Bucs do win later on today, then the Falcons are all of a sudden going to be in a dead heat for not only the division, but for the overall playoff lives, because the NFC has a good amount of teams, especially in the NFC, that already have the NFC North, that already have 9 wins.
Yeah.
Packers, the Packers, obviously Lions, double digits, and then Vikings. So it's going to be a cramming race to the finish for the NFC South, especially if the Falcons lose this game. But Johnny, what do you have to say in terms of everything mattering for this game?
Yeah, this is one of these games, man, where it's just like you said, man, there's a lot to unpack, man. Like, you have two teams that are vying for playoff spots. You have two quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective who, like, we've had high regards for. The Chargers obviously are without J.K. Dobbins, who's on IR. So some of you guys are playing Kamani Vidal and Gus Edwards and, some other pieces there. And then, the Falcons, you have Darnell Mooney with this Achilles deal and Drake London. There's just a lot to unpack in this game, for all parties for sure. The one thing I will say, man, the Falcons, giving it up in the air for sure, which kind of smells like a Kirk Cousins kind of day. Bijan Robinson has obviously turned it on coming down the stretch, man, here the last month or so. Then you got Quentin Johnson, man, and his dropsies, which, that is just par for the course. Disley, who's been a really good value, man, for fantasy owners at tight end over the last handful of weeks, man. Like, that's been a nice, I wouldn't call it a resurrection, but it's just been nice to see for sure. So I don't know, man. Like, this is a toughie here, man, because the Chargers, like, somebody the other night was like, yo, man, like, I didn't realize the Chargers were this good. And it's like, you go back and you look like, not like they just like, I won't drop names, but somebody was like, yo, like, they're like, yo, like, is it the fact that, like, they're really good, or have they just been beating up on bad teams? And I'm like, dude, like, you think about their losses, Kansas City, I don't even know who the fourth is, but Kansas City, Pittsburgh, it was Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. Like, those are whoever you lost to, it's the NFL for the fourth loss, right? But for me, man, like when I look at this game, man, I just think like the Falcons are, a little bit healthier here. The Chargers are still trying to find some pieces, like for sure. But like, yeah, man, like I'm gonna take the Falcons in this game, for sure. Give me them in the one. As far as the over under, if someone made me pick, I'm not putting a ticket on this, but if I had to, I'd probably take the over just because I think we're getting ready to see a better version of Justin Herbert coming down the stretch to get these guys in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a big game for both of these squads. Like, ton of fantasy implications in here as well. In terms of pieces. So yeah, it just remains to be seen. I know 63% of the money right now is on the Chargers to win this game. They are, again, the 1.5 favorites on the road. This Atlanta has just not given me confidence lately. Especially that shellacking on the road in Denver. I know they're a better team at home. They play their games indoors and stuff like that. So I don't want to write that game off per se. But it doesn't give me much confidence. Kirk Cousins is going to have to give me a better performance than he has lately. Because, again, Atlanta's offensive line is pretty solid. But it's also like Kirk Cousins has a statue behind that line as well, because clearly, the Achilles injury and stuff. But you would think he looks a little bit better by now, 12 weeks into the season, in which, coming off this Achilles, technically 11 for them. But I'm going to go with the Chargers. I just think they have a better matchup on paper in terms of Herbert having the fifth best matchup among QBs this week. Ladd having a great matchup versus, Atlanta corners this week. I just think that I know them losing J.K. Dobbins loses a somewhat receiving element per se out of the backfield. But I would think that even with that, I think the Chargers still get this done. I think they're a better defense than the Falcons. They create a ton more pressure. Falcons 30th in pressure rate so far in the year. It's just like, I don't understand. This Atlanta defense is actually pretty solid via names that we know, Matthew Judon and, these other guys like
Jesse
Brady,
Bates and some more
you know what I'm
guys.
saying?
Yeah.
So there's these guys that, they do play pretty solid defense, but they just cannot create any pressure. And the Chargers are a pretty solid unit offensive line wise. So I'm going to take the Chargers. Smart money's taking it. I'm taking it. Makes a ton of sense.
You calling me stupid? You calling me stupid now? Smart money. I'm taking it. Yeah, I see how it is. We were getting along so well before the show too.
Not sure what you're talking about, but all right. I said 60% of the people are taking the Chargers. So
there we go. There we go.
And it wasn't a statement towards you per se, but if you want to make it that way, by all means,
taking it that way.
But I'm taking the Chargers, the spread. I'm taking the over in this game. I think the Falcons are going to have to score some points today. I think they do because the Chargers are susceptible to giving up some points. So I call this probably a similar game to what we saw on Monday, where both offenses are pretty solid. Bijan Robinson is going to have a decent game today. So it's going to take the over and take the Chargers in this one. And there's that. Johnny, would you agree?
No.
Have something different to say?
No, man. I'll hit some ownership pieces real quick, man, and then we can keep it pushing for sure. But like Bijan, he's the highest owned player in this game on DraftKings right now at almost 22%. Justin Herbert is the chalk of the slate at quarterback, projected to be at this point. And then Ladd McConkey and Drake London coming in at like 15%. But you're talking a little bit about some of the passing game and some of the stats there. One of the things, man, the Chargers have given up is they have given up the deep ball. Over the last handful of weeks, almost 18% of their passing yards have been given up via the deep ball. So like almost 20 yards or more. So like watch out for Drake London, watch out for Darnell Mooney. And I won't even say it because everybody knows I'm the president of the Kyle Pitts fan club. So.
Oh boy.
Yes, sir. Drinking water. Water.
Oh Lord, yo. Makes sense. Colts, Patriots. Colts gained 2.5 on the road, 5-7 in the year, pretty much all but eliminated. Patriots 3-9 at home, and the over is 42.5. Not too much to say about this game, honestly. Like, this game comes down to if Anthony Richardson can complete more than 15 passes, because that's what the books have him for right now. The over under 14 and a half completed passes for Anthony Richardson. Can they beat the man coverage of the Patriots here? Christian Gonzalez pretty much going to be taking on Pittman and then everybody else because there's no Josh Downs today. So the Colts going to have to get creative to, overall make sure that they get this game. Patriots side of things, Drake May obviously looked a lot better. You know what I'm saying? The last couple of weeks in general, really looking like the quarterback of the future for the franchise. Dare I say, looks way better than Mac Jones ever did.
Yeah, facts. Facts.
I think in this game it's gonna feel like an ugly game in my opinion. I feel like it's gonna be a down out, drag out type of game. I'm not too sure if I was gonna be betting on this game in general. I got maybe a couple pieces in this game I like, but in terms of like the betting side, yeah, give me the underdog. I'll take the Patriots here at home. I just think Anthony Richardson, for as much as talented wise he is, like, where else is he going to go with the ball outside of Pittman when he gets Christian Gonzalez treatment? Did you know Christian Gonzalez only gave up 320 receiving yards this year? If you get that on average, that's about like 30 yards per game.
The only reason why I didn't hate the fact that the Steelers didn't pick him is because we got JPJ. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I was like, when they picked Broderick Jones, like, what are you doing? You need an SDC. But yeah, no, I think he's well aware.
Better. Your boy JPJ.
Yeah, he might be, man. He might be. He might be. I obviously, you know what I stand on. But like, there's no denying that Christian. Yeah, there's no denying that Christian Gonzalez is one of the best corners in the league, no question.
Yeah, no, both of them are really good though. So it's just like plucking hairs at that point.
Yeah.
What do you say to this game overall? I'll take the Patriots. I'll probably take the under, but I could easily see this game a couple broken coverage plays, like, and all of a sudden we have an over.
Yeah, like you're not wrong. Like this is like a disaster waiting to happen for Vegas. Just because, like the Patriots haven't been really good against the pass. Anthony Richardson hasn't really been good with the pass. So like anything can happen here. I just think that, like, kind of to the point that you mentioned, I just think like what you see is what you get with Anthony Richardson. Like at this point, I don't quite trust him yet as a passer. I thought like there were some things that I'd seen earlier on in the season and last year, and like the glimpses that we've seen that like maybe he was a better passer than what was suggested. But I think we obviously know that's not true at this point. So there's that piece of it for me, man. And like DFS wise, like I'm actually playing the Patriots. I think one of the things too that like we didn't hit on, man, or you didn't mention, was just like the demise of Jonathan Taylor. And I don't even know if it's a demise or if it's just the fact that like things can't open up for him based off of the offense and Anthony Richardson ineptitude of passing the football. So I think like, when I look at this game, man, like I think like for sure, give me the Patriots defense. I do like the under in this game with you as well. I would not be shocked if the Patriots win. Just on a straight up piece, it's really gross. Obviously, I think I may just go with you with the Patriots because this is absolutely a coin flip. I could see it going either way in this situation, but like this is a rock fight and a battle of shit versus stink in this situation. So ownership in this game, Anthony Richardson is coming in big time owned on the DraftKings side of things, 15%. So, if you're playing in any tournaments or anything like that, like obviously a way to create some leverage for yourself is by playing the New England defense. Then Pittman and Taylor. So all Colts essentially with the high zone pieces here, 5, 6. Yeah. Ramondre's coming in at like 6%. So like, if you're looking for, a running back to play in this game, obviously, or just a running back to play in general on this slate, Ramondre Stevenson would be a contrarian play at about 6%. But this is definitely going to be a slow game, and it's a little bit cold up here in the Northeast as well today, man. So,
Colts getting 78% of the money right now.
Wow! All right, sign me up for the Pats.
Sign me up for the Patriots. Yeah, I think this game it's one of those games where it could definitely go either way.
Yeah,
I just don't see what the hype is about. That's why they're getting so much of the money right now. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's the 2 week piece, man, where like a lot of people were going to Anthony Richardson the previous week after they seen like what he done, and it's like it's taking into the rushing factor. But I think like both you're going to see the same thing with both those guys, with him and Drake May both. But obviously Drake May at this, which is crazy because that was one of the knocks on Drake May, was like him as a passer, and like I think it's pretty clear that he's a better passer than Anthony Richardson at this point.
Definitely. Next game we got Texans at the Jags. Good old AFC South division matchup that, I think perception-wise, a lot of people taking the Texans here. Texans 7-5, the Jags 2-9 on the year. The line for the Texans, a 3.5 road favorite, and the over is 44.5. Like the Texans have been, they've just been a roller coaster of a team at times. In times where like kind of like the lights are the brightest, like they always haven't shown up. But in terms of when it comes to this team dynamic, like, you get Nico Collins back in the fold. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he's going to be someone you want to talk about. And just like, CJ Stroud, on the road here, the 3.5 seems fair. It's kind of like a stay away spot. I expect the Texans to win, but the Jaguars have as a team, like, they have been a team where it's like, all right, like they have performed a little bit better, but not enough better where I'm trying to take them in this game for the points. Just the line still seems like the line, in my opinion, should be a little bit bigger for the Texans. I'm just gonna double check to make sure no alignment with this happened. No, still 3.5 everywhere across the board books, and clearly 94% of the money makes sense. But what do you say to this game, Johnny, overall? DFS wise, like I know we're going to talk about that too. But what you got?
Yeah, man, this is just a spot where for me and like everything that like looked at like the data side of things, man, like the Jags have been one of the worst defenses just over the last 3 weeks as far as running.
They do get Tyson Campbell back today,
yeah,
so that could potentially
help out for sure,
muddle some things for you. But
yeah, I mean maybe they moved down 1 or 2 spots, but like. Joe Mixon didn't really have a great week last week, so you got to think, right, especially with the loss, you got to think that the Texans are going to want to come out and establish the run this week, which I think that's what they got to do, like, at this point. I think it's pretty evident that, C.J. Stroud last year, rookie year, man, like, we talk about it all the time, like, everyone talks about it, like the sophomore slump. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a slump. I just think that, teams have, they're taking a little bit more time to scheme up for them, right? So I think like this is a situation where, yeah, Joe Mixon, I think is 1,000,000% in play. Obviously, if you have him in season long, you're obviously playing him. But like, my guy, man, beating the drum already. First round pick for 2025, Nico Collins. He's going to be in my DFS lineups this week for sure. And then like the Jags, man, like they've over the last 3 weeks, man, 345 yards passing, they've given up. So like they're obviously susceptible to the pass. So maybe this is a get right spot for CJ Stroud as we're coming down the stretch for sure. I mean, every analytic that you want to look at for the Jags says they're giving it up everywhere. One guy, we were talking a little bit about as well, like this could be a sneaky shootout game here as far as like stacking. You got Brian Thomas, who's 5,500 on DraftKings at 15%. Like that is just way too cheap for a player of his caliber for sure. Then you got Evan Ingram is coming in at 13%. Evan Ingram has, I need to go to the clinic for what Evan Ingram has done to me this year, for sure. So there's that. Yeah, like it's bad. He's burned me so bad. It's ridiculous. And then you got Joe Mixon and Nico Collins, obviously, kind of bringing up the second part here at 11 and 12% ownership. Those are two guys that I really do like a lot. And like I said, Brian Thomas, I like the over in this game because I just don't think that like we've really been able to trust the Texans defensively, which is crazy. I know they've had a lot of injuries and things like that right there, but just there's games that they've been giving up leads and letting teams hang around, and the Jags are one of these classic teams that like you don't want to do that with, right? So especially at 2-9, and my man still has got his job, which is crazy. But yeah, so give me. I'm going to take the over in this game. Doug Peterson continuing to hang on for sure. Now it's like, is it going to be Doug Peterson or Ryan Day? I digress. Give me the over in this game, and I would say I would maybe tease this down from the 3.5 just to the 1.5 because I just personally am not quite sure how much I can trust the Texans in this space.
I don't know. I just it makes a ton of sense. If I'm going to take a side, I'm going to take the Texans point side. I know they've looked. I know this game was interesting down the stretch when they played earlier on in the year.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying, was earlier on in the year where the Texans barely squeaked out. But again, you got your weapons back again in this matchup. Jacksonville ranks 31st in NFL's passing yards and passing touchdowns. So they are susceptible, like we've talked about. So I mean, look, I like Brian Thomas from a DFS standpoint. Too cheap right now in a game where hopefully it does go back and forth. We are getting Trevor Lawrence back for this matchup, which should boast up Jacksonville in general. Your boy Evan Ingram, I know he's been burning you, but I think he's good. He's a good play today. 4,800 on DraftKings, and I think it's going to be a spot where both of those guys are going to go low on their own.
Yeah.
And versus the field, because coming off the bye, Jacksonville people are already percepting this team as pretty bad in general. And then who plays running back for the squad? I have no idea. Travis Etienne now, is he back in the fold? Take Bigsby.
I wish I could give back that draft. I wish I could give that draft pick back along with my entry fee for every time I drafted him in 2 leagues. Man, I'd give him back and my draft entry fee. Golly, man.
Yeah, Etienne. I knew. I didn't know it was going to go this bad. Etienne for me was a stay away because I just didn't really know they were already last year not giving him the full workload of usage running back, and they're still not even treating him that way. You know what I'm saying? It's
but he was nice. But he was nice.
Might come out
year,
today.
Man.
It might shock some people today. Who knows?
Probably because we've talked it up. That's why.
And that's how it usually goes.
Yeah.
Usually goes. Oh my gosh! Both of their lines are way too low. Etienne over 34.5 rush yards. Tank Bigsby over 37.5 rush.
You're not gonna get me fired up right now. It's too early. You're not gonna get me fired up. Nope, I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking the bait.
You're not gonna get me fired up. That's not my goal. I'm just looking at how ridiculous it looks.
Yeah.
And then Travis Etienne's both rush and receiving is over 51.5. I know, man.
Don't do it.
All right, this game. Talk about getting fired up.
Here we go.
Seahawks going on the road from west to east, 6-5 record on the year. They are when I looked at it this morning, the line changed. I'm not sure why, but the Seahawks are 1.5 underdog, road underdog against a 3-8 New York Jets. Jets in the overrun right now. This game is over 46.5. Look, people. No idea what the hell this is. I can't. My analysis on this game, the only thing I'll say is that the Seahawks offensive line still looks putrid. But Seattle still throws the most passing attempts in the NFL. The Jets, the only way they stay in this game is that the offense really picks them up. The defense is going to do some things. We already know there's too much talent in this defense to not do so. But I will say that it's all predicated on Aaron Rodgers. If he feels like playing today, how about that? If he feels like
I love that. I love it.
If he feels like playing today, this will be a competitive matchup. But if he feels like, after we're down a field goal, he'll mail it in, then Seahawks should win this one pretty easily. Per se, I just think both of these offenses can find ways to get this over pretty easily. I don't know, man. It's just a stay away for me, honestly, because it's just, I ain't gonna do it. I'm just not. And that's my analysis for the Jets game. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah.
What you got? Hopefully you got a little more insightful information.
Yeah, man. For me, this is one of these
74% of the money is on Seattle, by the way.
Okay. All right. I do like Geno Smith in this spot. The Jets have been, again, last handful of weeks, last 3 weeks, almost 270 yards passing. We know the Jets are going to get off the plane throwing the football. Jackson Smith and Jigba, man, he's been money for fantasy owners here over the last handful of weeks. So you have him and obviously DK Metcalf, who's been a little bit slow. But I think the thing for me, man, is just like your Jets defense. Like, with those two corners that they should have in the secondary, and obviously we know the team has been a disappointment, like as a whole, man. But like they should be locking people down. And when you look at like the adjusted completion percentage for the Jets, they're the worst in the NFL, meaning that the Seahawks should have a field day completing passes against this Jets defense. This is what it's been over the last handful of weeks. So, like, I do like Geno in this situation. I'm always going to play DK Metcalf just because, a.k.a. Baby T.O. And then, like, if you just look at, like, all the names that are on the field today, JSN, DK Metcalf, Ken Walker, Breece Hall, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, like those are all names, man. Like all those players in, that's 7 players that more likely than not were taken in the first 5 or 6 rounds of fantasy drafts back in August. And we're looking at an over under of 42.5, man. So I don't know, dude. I just I'm not feeling it. I gotta grab my charger, man. I'm getting ready to die.
Well, as Johnny does that, I'll give you guys a little bit more insight. Obviously we know the Jets defense second rated and pressure rated in the year. So I expect the ball to come out a little more quickly for Geno. That should lead to more DK, like John talked about. Should lead to more JSN when it comes to short and intermediate routes. If we're talking about that, both of those guys are pretty much close in range on DraftKings when it comes to prices. So Metcalf is 64 and then JSN 63.
Yeah.
I would rather just go for the boom there. If I'm going to go there, I'm going to go with Metcalf. I know we get Sauce Gardner today, but
no, it ain't Sauce.
Sauce Gardner.
No, I'm in Gardner. It ain't Sauce. It ain't Sauce.
It's Sauce Gardner still. Don't disrespect.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I would still probably attack the matchup in general at the lower ownership, most likely. Because the Jets have been pretty solid against slot receivers this year. So that's where, which is pretty surprising, honestly, but that's where I think, it's going to have to get the ball out quickly. Because we know the pressure the Jets can still bring. But in terms of this game in general, yeah, like I'm not exactly picking a side here. I'll probably just take the over though, because I do think both offenses, if they feel like it, like I said, if Aaron Rodgers feels like he wants to play a game today, then he can easily hit the over. But there's that. But yep, on to the next game.
Chill.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, 8-3 on the year, shocking the world. I mean, playing good football. Pittsburgh getting 2.5 on some books. I think they're getting 3 now. I think the line changed by a half point, so the Steelers are now 3-point underdog on the road for the Bengals. Bengals are getting 3 at home. A must-win game for the Bengals. They're 4-7. The over-under is 47.5. Winning this game for the Bengals, like after they lost that game, I wouldn't say they lost that game because they were playing from their back foot the entire second half against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. The last time we saw this squad, but yeah, like from a standings perspective, like the Bengals, yeah, again it's 4-7. It's just again like how it's gonna go, who knows? Because now it's like they are for the wild card as a spot. They are, they're 2 games out for. Sorry, they're 3 games out from the wild card because, like I talked about earlier, Chargers and Broncos both lead the final 2 spots. They both have 7 wins. The Colts, Miami, both have 5, and then the Bengals have 4. So ideally, like it's a must-win for the Bengals today. If they don't win this game, it is a wrap for them in terms of a standing perspective because clearly the Broncos, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I think they should beat Cleveland. Keyword should. And Miami won on Thursday, so it's just Bengals are have to keep up, is what I'm just basically just trying to say. Want to talk about your boys here? Do they have should they have an opportunity to take out the hammer or take out the take out the dog to the woodshed?
Yeah, they should.
Yell it out to the woodshed.
Oh yeah. Gonna leave them up at the farm. Yeah, man, this should be a game really for the Steelers, right? that they should be able to handle business, man. No doubt. Cincinnati over the last handful of games, last
66% of the money is on Cincy in this game.
yeah, man, it's name brand, man. It's name brand, right? And it's recency bias. Like that's just what it is,
it though?
man.
They lost that game against the Chargers.
But the Steelers lost to the Browns.
Yeah.
So recency. So
like put that in context though, don't we?
No, like so to put it into context, right? Like, okay, the Steelers losing to the Browns, a team that like everybody looks at and is like, man, like that is a really bad football team, right? And the Bengals losing to the Chargers are on the path to make the playoffs. And people also still don't believe in Russ Wilson the way that Pittsburgh Steelers fans do. Like a lot of people, as you opened this segment saying, shocking the world. And there are still people that like, there are people that don't believe in Mike Tomlin. There are people that don't believe in Russ Wilson. Like the Steelers have a lot of play, like offensively. Russ Wilson is still not a guy that people are in love with. People don't like George Pickens because of his attitude. Najee Harris is somebody that, you know, for the average fantasy fan or someone who's not a Steelers fan says like, yo, like, why are they paying this guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Still got questions at the number 2 wide receiver spot. Pat Fryermuth is somebody that people always throw darts at, but you could probably still get him in 50% of leagues out there just because tight end has been what it's been. So you take that into context for what the Pittsburgh Steelers have going on, and then they're going to play, you know, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown has been somebody who's came on as of late for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I just think, like, you know, it's one of those situations, man, where yes, it is recency bias in my opinion, and it's also too, man, it's like the, you know, the star piece, man. Like all these players, like for the Bengals that I mentioned, are all offensive players that have helped fantasy teams get over the hump. And from a sports betting perspective, obviously we know what Jamar Chase has done. Jamar Chase can go nuclear on anybody, any given Sunday, right? But like for me, the Steelers, I just think like Cincinnati has been so bad defensively in any area that you want to, you know, chop it up to. Explosive runs, rushing yards per game, passing yards per game, adjusted completion percentage, you know, third down, like whatever you want to say, like defensively for Cincinnati. So I think for me, like I look at this game and I think it's a great opportunity for George Pickens because Cincinnati has been pretty bad on the deep throw for sure. So like obviously we know that's what George Pickens specializes on. One of the downsides for this game today, no Alex Highsmith for the Steelers. You know, the great pass rusher is not going to be there today, and you got to have that going against Joe Burrow. I respect the Cincinnati Bengals and what they can do offensively for sure, but I do just think +3. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I do think that but I just do think that the Steelers, man, I think this is a spot where it's a get back spot and they know what the mission is over the next handful of weeks. So give me the Steelers +3. And I might even dip my foot in the pool of taking the over at 47.5 as well. And from an ownership perspective, man, like just like we talked about, Chase Brown on DraftKings, 6,200, almost at 30%. So very chalky as far as like what he's got going on. And then still got, I don't even know why your guys are still in here, but T. Higgins, 17% owned. Like we talked about him a little bit before the show. Like I do think this is a good play for him because one of the things for the Steelers earlier on in the year was both corners were looking really good. Jackson has been a little bit shaky here, and that's one of the things when you're a number 2 corner and you play on the field with a really elite corner is you're the guy that's going to get tested quite a bit. So we got to have a big day from him today, man. You know, if we want to have a chance to be able to win this game.
I think I hit that right on the nail. I think playing single high coverage, you're definitely going to now get that one-on-one matchup with Higgins and Jackson. And I think that's the matchup people are going to look to exploit today for their overall lineups, for overall gain. So remains to be seen. I think that, look, there's questions about Russell Wilson a little bit. I do think that Pittsburgh's going to have to throw the ball to stay, you know, in this one. So again, I'm kind of torn on this one because it feels like a trap game.
Yeah,
for the Bengals because they have to win this one. Like they have to win this one. If they don't win this one, it is a game where it's over for them, for their playoff hopes and everything that they talk about. And then what are going to do with T. Higgins contract? And then Jamar Chase going to be banging on the door again for a contract extension. May not want to play. So there's just a ton of things where that goes. But look, I'm going to take the Bengals. Forget your towel. Next game. Just because you brought up the towel.
Always keep it on me, man.
I was thinking about
always keep it on me. Always keep it on me, man. Always keep it on me.
Now I'm going to go with the Bengals. Next game, we have the Titans getting 6.5 on the road, going to Washington Commanders. 7-5 of the Commanders in a year. The over-under 44.5. Johnny, what do you say to this game overall? We like our boy Ridley today?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back in.
We like our boy Ridley today?
I'm back in. I'm back in on him from the DFS side. Like, see, I'm just gonna go ahead and pump my horn a little bit, man. From season long, my guys have been coming. They've been coming through for me, man, down the stretch here the second half of the year. Court Sutton and Cal Ridley, man.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, but like I do like what's been going on with the Titans, man. Although, like I said, man, like the first half of the year, man, these guys just, I don't know who was worse, Evan Ingram or the Titans, man, burning me. But like I think this is a game where you've seen it last week, right? Like the Commanders are starting to show some of their warts, meaning that, defensively, we always had questions about them defensively, and I think they were just playing a little bit over their head. The Titans are playing really good football right now on both sides of the ball for me. So obviously that's one piece. And then the other piece too, man, just as far as like, from a passing piece, the Commanders are another team, man, that have had a problem with the deep ball. And all of a sudden you got Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook Akinye. And yeah, and then Chico Conway last week just outrunning the entire defense on a busted play. Commanders have also been a little bit susceptible in the run game as well. So you got Tony Pollard this week. And I'm not sure if Tajay Spears is playing this week or not. I'll take a look. He's still questionable. They still got him listed as questionable. So you got that. So I think those are some things. The Commanders giving up 153 yards rushing over the last 3 weeks. So obviously definitely some meat on the bone there for the Titans and what it is that they could potentially do. So I like the Titans, man, like not straight up, but give me the Titans in the 6.5, or even give me the Titans on the tees up to 7.5, just because I think they've been playing really good ball. And I'll take the over as well, man. Like I like the over in this game because I think we know that the Commanders they're gonna put up points, but I think the Titans, like, I don't know, man. Apparently there's two trends that have been really slapping this year. Old running backs or running backs going from one team to another, and quarterbacks being benched and then getting back in and playing good football. So I think I like this situation here for the Titans today. Just got to be on upset alert, man, when you talk about the Commanders for sure. And then, like I said, man, like from that point of it, Brian Robinson is obviously up this week. He got scared last week in that game. No Austin Eckler with a concussion this week. So it'll be interesting to see how the Commanders' run game stacks up against the Titans, because the Titans actually haven't been terrible against the run. So I think this is probably going to be one of the more intriguing games for me on this slate. And then from an ownership perspective, when you look at the Titans and the Commanders, your boy is still okay. That's why I had the Jets still plugged here. Calvin Ridley, 15% owned, so he's the highest owned player in the game. Zach Ertz been sneaky good at the tight end position, and a real pay down option on DraftKings at 3,800. And then you got Brian Robinson as well. So Tony Pollard not even getting the love to be one of the top 5 highest owned players inside this game. And then if you really, this is a rare spot where Jaden Daniels isn't heavily owned, but I think we're starting to see him kind of hit that rookie wall a little bit. So yeah, man, give me the Titans and the points on this one, and don't make me regret it.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Titans are a defense that sticks it to people no matter what the matchup is. I think this game goes a long way to seeing how the Commanders definitely look as a team for the playoffs, because when there's been bigger spreads for Titans games. Like there's been they've kept it close for the spread. So they've been a better team to take for the points this year. I think for the Commanders side of things, we have a question for Brian Robinson or Gus Edwards. Let us know if that's season long or if that's DFS related, so that we can answer your question properly. But if it's for Brian Robinson today, he's going to be pretty much. He's coming off, I believe, the ankle injury for this one, and then we'll have Jeremy McNichols mixing in. I think Christian Rodriguez. He's still, I think, the third string for this team. So it remains to be seen. But I think I might be in agreement with you when it comes to the Titans. The only way I see the Commanders like fully taking this one is that they do like McLaurin has a big game today.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure. I think L'Jarius Sneed is playing today. L'Jarius Sneed is playing today, right?
He is not on the injury report for the Titans, so he's a go.
So I think that with L'Jarius Sneed back and play for the Titans, like I can see this game definitely being a lot more closer than people think and should expect. So I'm agreeing with you. I'll take the Titans at 6.5. Because the Commanders really pretty much all year long has not given me like the stamp of approval that they're going to come out and stomp somebody out. And I wouldn't say Daniel's hitting a rookie wall per se, because that game against the Dallas last week, he definitely came out because he was looking awful. Like the first half, he was terrible. And then like second half, he started turning things around. He's a little inflated a little bit for the passing yards because Terry McLaurin had a huge like play that pretty much should have won the game or at least tied the game. And the fact that Seibert, who's now in the IR again, he overall like
you know why he's on the IR.
We know why.
Yeah, loser's lip, Bruce ego out there. That's what it is.
Yeah, that. But the hip is still bothering him.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
my hip bothers me too, but I'm still sitting up.
Before the Dallas game last week, it was looking like Daniel's hitting that rookie wall. It remains to be seen. We all know the Titans defense are pretty solid, so I'll just take the 6.5 and be a little bit more safer because I want the Commanders to show me that show us wrong here. Show us that you can beat a team by more than 10 points other than the Giants.
Facts.
So Chris, if you got that answer, question, I'm just gonna say Brian Robinson, but season long. If it's DFS related, like Gus Edwards is gonna be like really cheaply for your DFS lineups. So it make a ton of sense for 4,300 for Gus Edwards on DraftKings. But I think if you're starting season long, Brian Robinson, it makes sense because I'm not too sure how involved McNichols is going to be. We don't know how that injury for Brian Robinson is going to hold up. But I just expect, this is a time of the year where you're starting your guys where you have to start the guys you drafted, start the guys who have been doing well for you. And Brian Robinson, for the most part, has been pretty decent overall this year. So I'm going to keep on playing him. For a DFS side of things, Ryan Robinson's price, he is 6,100 today against Tennessee, but I'm not really loving the matchup per se. Even if he gets like a few catches in this game potentially, I still don't love the price, so I don't really love the matchup. Anything else to say about this game, Johnny?
Nailed it, brother.
All right, cool. We nailed it. Cardinals, Vikings should be an interesting game. Cardinals 6-5 on the year, going on the road, getting 3.5, going into SoCal, Minnesota, taking on your guy KOC. There he goes. And the Vikings 9-2 in the year, over under 44.5. Johnny, you already know what I like in this game. So we'll talk about that later. But I'm trying to figure out what this Cardinals offense is going to look like. And it's just like, it's annoying. It's annoying. Like Kyler Murray, it feels like 1 minute he's looking like the guy that, people were like, we're missing out on this guy. Like he could do it all. He could throw the ball. He could run the ball, And then they came and scored a touchdown against Seattle. Like it's just, it feels like it's been like that all year long. When it comes to Kyler Murray, Vikings side of things, like Sam Darnold's looked a lot better last couple matchups. So what do you like in this game overall?
man, one of the things that's like really starting to like pop is like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, man. I think you might be able to trust Kyler today, man. The Vikings are starting to like show up in like some passing areas, like as opportunistic passing areas is what I would say. So I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable like with Kyler. Marvin Harrison Jr., man, like I think like we all are like, damn, man, like I know in that cookout league, I sure wish I would have wasted that pick on him.
So I got a quote from head coach of Arizona, Jonathan Gannon, saying Marvin Harrison Jr., we are going to get him going today. The passing game will go through him.
Okay. All right. And I believe that.
Remains to be seen. I hate relying on coach speak, but you know.
Well, I like the Vikings, like, you know, like when you're as aggressive as the Vikings are, like on the blitz, like you're gonna leave yourself open, right? To, you know, certain situations, one-on-one, big plays, right? Like you're gonna leave yourself open to that. So I think Kyler is he's an okay play today, for sure, just based off of that. Vikings giving about 250 yards passing. And then, you know, on the deep throw, you know, we're talking about a 12% of their yards have come off the deep ball. So maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. is back in play. I'm not going to say he's going to break a slate, but I don't think he's going to bottom you out if you decide to go with him and play him this week. Then, like, this game reminds me a lot of like that Jets Seahawks game, and like we've seen it obviously because the Seahawks and the Cardinals played. I think it was last week, but like a lot of star power in this game. Justin Jefferson, right? Obviously Aaron Jones, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, James Conner, right? Kyler Murray, Jordan Addison, a lot of star power in this game. And so, like for me to see again, like that Jets game was at 42 and some change. This one's at 44 and some change. So I do like the over in this one right here. The Cardinals defense, man, we talked about it. Yo, they've been playing some good football, man. They've been playing really good on the defensive side of the ball, especially like not to have like a lot of household names on the defensive side. But my man KOC, he's always cooking, bro. He's always cooking. And that's the beautiful thing, man, about, you know, us being in the space, man, and fantasy football and sports betting and everything. Like it allows you to be able to take a look at other situations and really appreciate it. And Kevin O'Connell, man, is somebody that like I really appreciate for sure. Like I've really appreciated him, you know, for a long time as an offensive coordinator and as a head coach. So for me, man, like I'm cool with taking the Cardinals in the 3.5. I think Sam Darnold, obviously, like, he's been making, you know, wine with grapes, man, with this right here, right? And the Hawk is back, obviously been back and gives us a little bit, you know, more at the tight end position. And he's actually the highest owned player in this game at almost 13%. I think the field has got it right in this game with the Cardinals being the second highest owned player / unit in this game here at almost 11%. I like them a lot this week, followed by Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones as far as from an ownership perspective. No real injuries to worry about when you look at, well, actually, I'll take that back. Cam Robinson, we don't know if he's going to play this week. But, like, yeah, man, like, you know, and again, some more things. Minnesota, we already talked about like what they've been doing, like, or what they haven't been doing on defense. Caleb Williams just had a monster game against him not too many weeks ago. So like I'm cool with rolling with a little bit of Kyler. So yeah, my perspective has definitely changed on that. And then last week, man, I know I won't steal it all for you, man, but you had the right process last week, man, just the wrong player. You know, Jay Jets was your guy last week, and it ended up being Jordan Addison. 2 weeks ago, I had Jordan Addison, and he didn't do jack shit. So, like, you know, neither one of us can get it right, apparently, with these Minnesota Viking receivers.
Oh, man, yo.
What do you do?
Man, you just take the Vikings.
That's fair. That's fair.
Take the Vikings.
That's fair.
For as much as we get annoyed with this team in general, I just think I do like the Vikings in this matchup. I think the Cardinals can definitely keep this game close, but I think the Vikings, they look like a better team overall, from top to bottom in most categories. I know the Cardinals defense has been playing better as of late, but I just think the Vikings are going to take this one. I think Jefferson, we'll talk about him more in depth later, but also like with Jefferson, he gets a matchup where, you know, the Cardinals are playing a ton of zone, and Jefferson's going to be able to eat. in this matchup where he exploits zone coverages. Similar to if you play Patrick Mahomes against zone coverage constantly, you look to eat him up there too. But I think with Jefferson, he gets, he's going to exploit Sean Murphy Bunting, because he's one of the worst matchups for corner. He gets one of the best matchups overall against Murphy Bunting, who's been an awful corner this year for metrics purposes. So that's a great matchup for Jefferson today. And then again, fifth best zone beater is Justin Jefferson. So I'm doubling down on Justin Jefferson. Last week I didn't get the call, and everything looked like it was going to happen. But division matchups are always interesting, right? Chicago and stuff like that. But this week, it's all Justin Jefferson today.
Jets.
You know what I'm saying, for sure. 4:00 games now. Bucks getting 5.5 on the road. Going to Carolina. Spread is, like I said, 5.5. Over under is 46.5. Yeah, look, I think the Bucks are going to take this and cover this. The Bucks have to win this game in order to stay competitive for their playoff hopes. And expect a big game for Mike Evans today. Because look, him and Baker, they said it the week prior that they care about Mike Evans getting to 1,000 yards receiving. So
man, just gotta love it.
So it makes sense. Like I'm definitely a big fan of that. But Carolina defense, 30th in the NFL right now. And Carolina's offense, 31st in the NFL right now. Look, I know the Bucks have had their struggles defensively, especially in the back end for certain matchups these last 4 weeks. But give me the Bucks and the points. I just think that they'll be able to just control this game from start to finish. Bryce Young definitely looked better against the reigning, defending back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know why I keep saying that, but
it's the Paul Heyman in you. The reigning, defending. That's all it is. You're a Heyman guy. It's cool. It's cool.
Oh boy, yo. I didn't get a chance to watch Survivor Series just yet. I'll be watching it playback. Did you watch it?
I caught the last 15 minutes of it because
of course you did. Of course you did.
We had a Christmas parade the girls were in, so like
that's
I totally
all that matters.
forgot.
Get the last 15
and then
minutes
Cam Ward blowing me up, man, blowing up my parlay. I ain't even want to talk about it, but
yeah. What do you say to this game, Johnny?
This is one of my favorite spots on the slate right here. Panthers are cheap all the way across the board. The Bucks are always in games where points are being scored. I like this here. And you mentioned Baker and Mike Evans. It's important. So it's been a passing based offense all year, right? Like that's just what the Bucks have been ever since Todd Bowles has been the head coach. It's been a passing offense. The one thing I will say though is that teams are getting there on the Panthers by running the ball. So I'm curious, or not curious, but it'll be interesting to see today how it shakes out with the Bucks offensively. If it is that vaunted three-headed monster, Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker and Rashad White, or if it's just one of those games where Mike Evans kind of got his legs back up underneath them and now they're throwing the ball a lot. I wouldn't be shocked if offensively for the Bucks, it ended up being similar to what happened last week with the Giants, where they were just able to run the ball. I do think the Panthers, though, man, the narrative again, quarterback being benched, coming back out, playing better football. This is a really good situation for Bryce Young. And Bryce Young is I think he's the last starting quarterback. I think he was 4,700 on DraftKings. And you got Adam Thielen as well, who's somebody that I think we know, he can still play a little bit for sure, but the thing that's really interesting about DFS ownership in this one here is downtown David Moore, 3,500 mint price, 20% owned on DraftKings.
Oh Lord, yo.
Yeah, and then you got Bucky Irving coming in at 17%, and then our guy, friend of the program, Chuba Hubbard, 16%, followed by Mike Evans, and then Rashad White. Big drop off at 6%. So I think the field has it right in terms, in my opinion, anyway, of minus David Moore. But obviously, I can understand why you play him. in that situation. But Bucky Irvin, Chuba Hubbard, and Mike Evans being being there as far as like the highest owned players. And then just like looking, like I said, like as well. The Bucks, obviously, man, like I think we know, like they've been a team that you can't throw the ball on. So 272 yards passing over the last 3 weeks. So I think there's an opportunity for Bryce Young when you look there. None of the other analytics really like stick out big time. Adjusted completion percentage. They're 12th on the slate, not in the NFL, but on the slate. So like there is a path and there is a track that could potentially get Bryce Young into, QB5, QB6 spot. I'm not saying he's going to break the slate. Like, I don't want to break the internet. But, like, there's definitely an opportunity for him to be playable in DFS lineups to be able to get you to some of the higher tier players that we have on this slate.
Yeah, I just think looking over a statistic, Mike Evans coming back the previous week was second among all receivers in separation win rate. And now he gets the Carolina Panthers, like we talked about.
Yeah,
is they rank 30th in pass. They rank 30th in defensive metrics. Like, I just I'm starting to think like Mike Evans. I don't know. He should have probably maybe been a cover boy part 2. I don't know.
Oh,
maybe I don't know. Let's not get ahead. Let's not get ahead.
We'll see.
Speaking of getting ahead, Rams taking on the Saints. Rams in a must-win, I think, game. Going into New Orleans. Orleans. Rams 5-6 in the year. Saints come out to bye 4-7. Rams getting 2.5 on the road. The over is 49.5. Look, like this game, like I said, this is a game where the Rams pretty much going to have this one in order to have their playoff hopes. I feel like I'm saying this about a few teams this week.
Yeah, you are.
Because I feel like I'm gonna repeat a little bit. This team has to
Yeah,
they have to win today. But it's true though. Some of these teams do have to win today. And if they don't, it's pretty much goodbye to their overall their hopes for the playoffs. But I would say I'm gonna let Johnny take away on this one. Let's see what he got in his bag for this one.
Yeah, man. For me, this is a game that like I think the over-under could be sneaky. Since all the weapons have come back for the Rams, they have been throwing it around a little bit more, and the Saints have been known to give it up in the passing game. So, like, I think this is going to be an interesting spot when you look at Puka Nacua, who since he's come back from injury, man, I think, like, you can see that, like, he's definitely the guy in that offense for sure. So, like, I like that piece of it. When you talk about the Rams and their passing game, for sure. Then defensively, man, the Rams, again, we look at them on the defensive side of the ball. They have been somebody that you have been able to complete passes against. Tua had a pretty good game against them on Monday night. And then who did they just recently play? I'm just throwing a blank right now. They were just on – I can't remember who it was they played. But either way, like they're defensively, like they've been giving up some in the passing game. Their defensive line has been playing really good for sure. The one thing I would say as far as like the Saints go, obviously Alvin Kamara, that's what we got to be looking at today. I think it's time for him to get ready to get back busy again. Rams giving up 168 yards rushing over the last 3 weeks for sure. And they are in the top 5 as far as explosive, top 7 anyway, as far as explosive runs go. So I think this could be a place where we can see Alvin Kamara. Wait a minute. Shout out UT getting ready to go to the college football playoffs. Got to call it out one time. This could be a place where I think you could really see him shine today. I know I always hate it anytime where he's like heavily owned, because it's like when he's heavily owned and I play him, he doesn't do anything. When he's at 6% owned, then he scores 7 touchdowns. But I do think this is going to be one of those games where you can get both of these quarterbacks on the DFS slate and super dirt cheap. So like I'm definitely interested in some of the pieces here for this game holistically. So Kamara at 30%, Puka at 18%, Taysom at 18%, Kyron at 16%, and Coop Kupp at 14. So they got it right as far as the stars. on this in this game here offensively. So this will definitely be a fun game to watch, or it could be and should be a fun game to watch from a fantasy perspective. The Rams got to keep winning. The Saints, like, I don't think they're not quite out of it. So this is really, I'll take your verbiage. This is a must-win situation here, man. Like, we're at that point in time, right? Like, this is a must-win for both of these teams here. So this should be a good game, man. But I feel comfortable taking the Rams in the 2. The 49.5. I'll take it just because I feel like the Saints are probably going to hold up in terms of giving up points. So I'll take the 49.5.
Yeah, 82% of the money is on the Rams in this one. So that makes a ton of sense. What also makes a ton of sense is Cooper Kupp and or Puka Nacua today, because obviously bottom 5 matchup for receivers or the Saints, especially since they let go to Marshawn Lattimore a few weeks ago. So off this matchups, ranking 28th in yards allowed per game, and obviously Cooper Kupp 8th in yards per game, one of the best in the league. So Cooper Kupp / Puka Nacua, like, both of those guys should get busy in this matchup, and both should be scoring a ton of points in this matchup. And yes, I like the over. I like the Rams because 2.5 still feels like the Rams should win this one by 6. Even though the Saints have been playing a little bit better, I definitely think they could still continue the pace that they're on. But it all depends on how they deploy Taysom Hill. Still, I think Rizzi, the new head coach for the Saints right now, interim, he loves Taysom Hill. You could just tell. He uses them all over formation. I actually think, spoiler alert, I think they like Taysom Hill right now better than they did the last regime, which is crazy.
Wild.
Pretty wild, right? So I think we have to, if you're paying Taysom Hill on DraftKings, makes sense. 5,000 today versus Kamara's price, 7,700. Both those guys should have a footprint. Whether it be how they're going to be productive in this game. Again, remember, no Chris Olave, Jamal Williams, I think, is still questionable to come into this game. Find out if he actually plays today. Even if he does, Taysom Hill is still their goal line back, per se. And there's multiple ways he can score. So it's just, you just got to keep on riding that if you have him in your season-long leagues, like I do in a couple of my leagues, Cookout League. Yeah, so we just have to keep on riding that out. But going on to probably the game of the week, Eagles heading to Baltimore, pretty much going right down the road.
For all intents and purposes.
Oh man, for all intents and purposes. Eagles 9-2 in a year. They're getting 3 on the road in Baltimore. Baltimore 8-4 in the year. The over-run right now is 50.5 for 25 game time. Yeah, this game. Why does this feel like this game smells like an under?
Because they're two good teams.
I know
they're 2 good teams. They're 2 really good teams.
It smells
I'm with
like
you.
Under to me. It smells like under to me.
We missed our chance. It smells like under in here. What? Underdog.
People are calling this potential Super Bowl matchup, so it's possible. When Philly has won their last 5 games, they've averaged 32.5 points per game. In the 5 games they won, scored that much. So Ravens defense, allowing 24th in yards, 20th in yards per play, and 23rd in points per game. Allowing their opponents to score 24.5 points per game. This is tough. I think I like the Eagles +3. I think the Ravens are a very tough matchup, obviously. The Eagles have looked so much better defensively lately. It's like, okay, Ravens going to have to come out their bag and find out a way to maybe utilize Deontay Johnson. Maybe this is the week. I dropped him in all my leagues.
Shut your dirty face. Shut your dirty face.
Go pick him up now.
Shut your dirty face. Shut your dirty face.
I may go pick him up now in the league.
Shut up. Shut your dirty face. Oh my God.
I might just go out and pick him up.
You're sick in the head. You are sick in the head.
Can't get enough, they say. But yeah, give me the Eagles. I think the Ravens are a team that has proven themselves consistently. Derrick Henry, obviously. There's gonna be both Barkley and Henry are gonna be in matchups where they're gonna be jockeying for position, so to say. And this matchup can go a long way in deciding maybe the MVP of the year as well. Because if Lamar Jackson doesn't come out and ball the heck out, he could probably have, especially if Josh Allen does worldly things on Sunday Night Football tonight. This could be an interesting MVP race if Lamar loses this game. Like I said, give me the +3 and the Eagles for points. Like, they've been playing too high of football right now. So even if they lose this game, it should be by a field goal, unless Justin Tucker misses it. But yeah, what do you say, Johnny, in this game?
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think the Ravens they've just been so susceptible on defense, man, which is like not a common staple for the Ravens and like who they've been, over the last 5, 10, 20 years defensively, right? This might be one of the worst Ravens teams that we've seen defensively. And I think we talked about it a little bit last week. Like, one of the scary things about the Eagles is like we still have not seen the best version of A.J. Brown. And like, we don't know if Devonta Smith is going to play. It looks like he might be trending towards that way. And then, like, you talked about the MVP race, right? But like, what about the Offensive Player of the Year? Because like, we know basically that is just the award that's not going to be given to the quarterback. So you have Derrick Henry and you have Saquon Barkley, both who were 2 running backs that left their previous teams. Now their previous teams are horse shit, and this is an opportunity for both of them to be able to showcase. I agree with you as far as the under. I think it's just an under just because, like, right, like, obviously we don't know the exact formula, but you're looking at 2 really high potent offenses. And typically that would mean, oh man, like, okay, they're going to put up some points. But I just think that like Philadelphia has been playing much better. I think they did lose Brandon Graham to like a torn pec or tricep, something like that, last week. But overall, man, like you said, man, like the Eagles they've been much better on defense. And I like the Eagles with the +3 on this right here, man.
Glad to see we're on the same page.
And wait, before we even go anywhere, like, you really can't afford any of these guys in DFS. It's like walking into a Versace store. Everything is like overly priced, like ridiculous. So like you can only get one piece, or maybe if you do that, then you got to go back to the Carolina game. So.
I think the cheapest thing I could afford is the Mark Andrews, 3,900 DraftKings. We expect this game to go a little bit more back and forth, but if we also expect this game to not go as highly paced, this should favor the tight ends, both Dallas Goedert and Mark Andrews. I still expect AJ Brown to get there somehow, some way, because it usually always happens. So it feels like he always finds a way to get there somehow, some way. But yeah, that's what I got. Sunday Night Football matchup in the snow. Johnny will be right back. He's got to use the facility. Niners taking on the Buffalo Bills. Niners 5-6 in the year. The Niners are +5.5 on the road. Pretty much going to the elements because there's expected to be a ton more snow. There are already some snow already in the Buffalo area, but now there's going to be some more. But yeah, Buffalo 9-2 in the year. The over-run right now is 44.5 for the Sunday Night Football matchup. So what I have to say about this game is we all know that the Niners, man, Brock Purdy is expected to play this game, so that's really a good thing when it comes down to it. But even if he is playing, man, it's Buffalo's defense, man. Like, they are playing really good football right now. They are shutting down teams. But this could be, a game which the Niners going to have to win. But to see that Trent Williams still not practicing, I'm not even sure if he's playing tonight, because if he's not playing, that's really bad if he's not playing. And it's official. Trent Williams not playing this matchup today. So yeah, like the Niners just having their, unfortunately it happens to every, certain teams every year where it's like the injuries are just coming out the woodwork now when it comes to them. But because Bosa's also out in this matchup. So there's a ton of things to love about Buffalo in this matchup without those two guys. Brock Purdy, like I said, is playing, but because of those guys getting ruled out, that line jumped. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm seeing it at 5.5. The last time I checked, I'm not to double check again because I believe that line moved again. And it did. It went up another point. So Niners are now getting 6.5 because there's no Trent Williams. There's no Nick Bosa tonight, which are huge in my opinion. They need both of those guys in this matchup. Team have a shot. So yeah, like give me Buffalo because Buffalo has been playing too good of football right now. The Josh Allen factor where he plays in the weather, is something ridiculous. I think it's like 14-2 or something like that in snow weather games, something like that. Some crazy record in when it comes to that. But look, CMC could have a decent game today in this game because it should be, a game, like I said, about weather and whatnot. But yeah, like oh, the Niners, man, how far are they falling? And
Yeah.
Kyle Shannon is going to be interesting to talk about at the end season's end. But is any more? Would you like to add anything, Johnny?
Well, I thought I could have made it through the entire show, but I guess that's what happens when you drink a pot of coffee and like full of waters before it's time to go on. No, like I think like Josh Allen, obviously, like the weather conditions, there's that piece of it. And like you mentioned, man, like when you look at like just the levels defensively as far as like what the 49ers do and don't have available to them, like you're obviously no Trent Williams, right? Like best tackle in football. That's a problem. Still obviously no Dre Greenlaw. Bosa out. Who knows if Brock Purdy's going to play at this point, right? So you got that going on. It just feels like this isn't set up for them here in this situation. And, again, I'll continue to say I don't want to be a hater, but I guess I am deep down inside. I actually don't hate the Bills, but like, it just seems like this is just another situation where they're getting served up a team that's limping in and they're going to beat up on them here and they're going to go to 10-2. And here we are. Right. So just another like sneaky thing just to kind of keep in mind for those of you guys that are playing on FanDuel. The 8:00 game is a part of the main slate. So that is just something just to kind of take into consideration if you are playing on FanDuel. But yeah, dude, I don't know what the weather is actually going to look like when it
I'm getting a so I'm Kevin Roth, we all know is the DFS expert for weather.
Yeah.
He doesn't exactly have
it says nothing but wind for what I see here. It says
so
nothing.
That's what's concerning. Yeah. That's what's concerning also a little bit because that's more concerning for me than it is like snow per se. Like, but yeah, wind's supposed to be up to 20-25 miles per hour, and that could be something along with a chance of snow in the mix. But
Josh Allen can cut through. Yeah, he cuts through that, man. Like he can cut. Like I think, like he cuts through that. Like you know what I mean. Yeah. So I think like it's more of a concern for Brock Purdy. But like also too, man. Like if you're playing on that main slate, you got James Cook, man, one of the guys, man, that I would say he's probably outproduced like what we thought he was going to produce for where he was drafted at this season. Like he's looked really good all year long. So it'll be interesting to see how this overall shakes. But I don't think there's enough that shakes that it sways me from taking the Bills. So yeah, like I'll definitely take the Bills. And if Brock Purdy plays, I might go over. If he doesn't play, I'm going to take under.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's questionable, but he should play. We're gonna need him. Clearly, the one he doesn't play. If all three of those guys, when it comes to Trent, when it comes to Bosa, when it comes to Trent, when it comes to him not playing, that's pretty much call this game a wash. So, pretty much. Wax on, wax off. Wax off. But yeah, I mean the over under. I mean, it smells like an under to me with all the weather.
Yeah.
So if I just go to the under, I'll take the Buffalo Bills. Quickly talk about the Monday night matchup before we get to the bets and props of the week. Browns getting 5.5 on the road to go to Denver, Mile High. Over on right now, 42.5. I think that might change. That might drop a point or two before game time tomorrow. So right now it's still 42.5, and everything's still everything, but it probably will change tomorrow. But to talk about it really quickly, Denver has covered, against the spread 9 out of the 3, not 9-3 against the spread in covering. So I'll probably take Denver here. They've been playing really well. Bo Nix should have a decent game in this matchup as well, just due to how he's been playing. He started the week off slow, but now he's really turned up. in terms of just like playing. They have currently Denver. They overall have a they'll have to face Myles Garrett.
That guy, he's a chump.
Who's obviously gonna
That guy, he's a chump.
yeah, he's a chump, all right. But I think in terms of Bo Nix should be fine, even though he's playing against Myles Garrett and could create some pressure and problems. But Bo Nix could still scramble pretty well in terms of scrambling QBs. But look, I think Denver has definitely been a team that I knew they would easily cover their win total. Their win total coming into the year, it was like 4.5 or 3.5, something like that craziness. But I didn't expect this team to be continually be gelling like this. So I do like Denver in this matchup. Give me the points in this matchup. And give me the over, because I think Jameis Winston is going to keep on throwing the football.
Yep, he's going to keep throwing the football, but unlike his Christmas snow miracle last Thursday, he's probably going to get picked off 2 or 3 times. So I think he comes back down to earth this week on Monday Night Football. I think it's been a cool story for him because, like, I actually have never really minded Jameis Winston. He just wears the wrong color jersey at this point. But, like, Bo Nix, like you mentioned it, man, like the rushing upside for him. The Broncos have actually not been very good against the run over the last 3 weeks. So I do think this could be a game. I do like the under in it, man, because I think it's one of those games where if Sean Payton can run the football and kind of not have to open Bo Nix up per se, and have him throw it all around the yard, I think you'll see a slower pace game. So I do like the under in this game. I don't know about messing with the points quite at this point. I'm not quite sure, but like I do like the under in this game because I think it will be slowed down. No Cedric Tillman, man, my guy from UT, who was on a little bit of a heater before he got knocked out playing against the Steelers. It kind of hurt my heart to see, my team, one of my guys. But
that's
cost of doing, cost of doing business, right?
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, for me, like I said, like I like the Broncos here at home. Let's ride.
Good Lord, he did not. Let's ride.
Yeah, I like the Broncos. I'm grateful for them. I'm glad they treated my guy like shit. We can fix him. We can fix him.
Oh boy. All right. Well, it's that time. Favorite time of the show. We talk about the props. Look, better week this past week for the Knicks prop shop. We are 55% of the year, 78, 62 on the year. We had 10 and 5 last week. Won some decent money this past week, so we're getting there. Just get one thing at a time. We're gonna go over top 3 plays. We're gonna go over 1 p.m. props and then 4 p.m. We'll have 4 p.m. props out before the games. Thanks to producer Johnny over there.
I love it. I love it.
But top 3 plays are going to be on the board. All you could take them all separately. You could combine them all together. But I like all these plays. We'll be playing the most. These are the 3 plays I'll be playing the most today. First 3 are here. Barkley over 2.5 receptions. He's covered this line 2 of the last 4 games. If you want to feel a little bit better about the receiving yards, feel free to do so. I think it was like 19.5 or something when I checked. So if you want to play that instead, feel free. I just kind of think that in a game where the Ravens could easily get up in this game, could easily see that happening, and where Philly's gonna have to play behind a little bit. Neutrally, I think they could pass the ball a little bit more because the Ravens defense are a better team covering the run than they are against the pass. But like I said, the receiving yards for Barkley is 21.5 on FanDuel. He's covered this in back-to-back games. So yeah, I mean, look, like Barkley 2.5 receptions feels like an easy one to get because again of how the game should spell out. Bucky Irving over 57.5 rush yards. We all know that's too cheap. And as I looked at it, FanDuel has raised the point for Bucks now, so they're now a 6.5 road favorites. So this only spells Bucky Irving in the ball more, especially we've seen him get a ton more receiving usage as well. So that's interesting as well to note for Rashad White people, because I have him in the league. It kind of sucks, but I have Bucky Irving another one. So that's how it kind of goes. But 57.5 for rush yards is way too low for a guy with Bucky Irving's potential. We've seen how he's going to be utilized in that role anyway. So that line is way too cheap for me. And then Joe Mixon, 84.5 rushing yards. My goodness, Joe Mixon, man, just continually proving us wrong out here. I'm not in denial or doubt about not getting Mixon enough, because everything spelled that where it was going to be more pass heavy for Houston this season, and games in which like they would still be, CJ Stroud hopefully taking the next step, but instead we got the opposite of the regression, where CJ Stroud took a step back and now they're leaning more on Joe Mixon in the run game. So 84.5 rush yards, pretty easy here against the Jags, because we know they're going to look to run the ball out as well against Jacksonville, who is, bottom 5 in rush defense. So those are the top 3 plays on the board. The 1 p.m. games props. In addition to Mixon in that game, we have over 61.5 Brian Thomas Jr. receiving yards. We got your boy Evan Ingram on here, over 47.5 receiving yards. Jacksonville's going to have to throw the ball in order to stay competitive. I don't know how the rushing is going to be there for them in general for this game. They'll have to keep them honest and whatnot. So it's the contrarian is obviously taking the rushing yards for either ETN or Bigsby, but I don't know how that's going to play out either way. So you have to go with the guys that are getting a ton of usage in this offense, and that's Brian Thomas Jr., it's Evan Ingram. No Gabe Davis for the year now. Obviously, clearly, Christian Kirk's been out for weeks because he's on the IR now. So yeah, got to go with these guys. They're getting the most usage out of the offense, and that's what the offense is going to have to run through, with Trevor Lawrence officially playing. Next game, cluster of plays as well. The Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game. All these lines feel like they are right there. But in terms of this game, the over-under should, in my opinion, most likely should hit because Pittsburgh's going to have to throw the ball a ton. I just think with Cincinnati, they've been in shootout games the last couple of weeks they played. So Burrow's line's too low for me at 261.5. Pittsburgh plays a ton of single high coverage. So it's going to be like we talked about earlier. Deontay Jackson taking on Higgins. So the Higgins line, I expect them to at least hit this receiving yards over and potentially a touchdown. And then Chase Brown, rushing and receiving for the 95.5. Pittsburgh is pretty bad against zone running backs, and that's where Chase Brown pretty much thrives at. But I think I'm taking the rushing and receiving line for just to be a little bit more safer, because they do check down to Chase Brown a ton, especially with now with all the weapons back for Cincinnati. And Russ Wilson's pretty clear. Gonna have to keep on throwing the football when it comes to this matchup. Next, we go to our cover boy, Justin Jefferson, Jay Cheddars, over 81.5 receiving yards. Look, I was wrong about him last week, but the process was right. Just Jordan Addison kept on scoring touchdowns. Like we talked about earlier, the zone coverage matchup for Jefferson is stellar. He's fifth in zone and beating zone coverages. Gets Sean Murphy bunting. Like a lot of this stuff is just lining up for Justin Jefferson. I didn't get a chance to put the long shots up, but Justin Jefferson once again is a long shot touchdown play because he should get one today. Like I said, he's a big time regression candidate for scoring a touchdown today. Getting a little bit better odds than we did last week, plus 115 on FanDuel. And then the rush yards for Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray should find a way to get this 23.5 rush yards, like in a matchup where, I think Arizona's going to have to, throw the ball a little bit more. I still expect with all the defenses. And then sometimes, you're going to get susceptible. Sometimes, again, Kyler Murray's going to find a scramble drill out of, them finding, some blitz coverages. Like, so 23.5 for rush yards, really low for a guy like Kyler Murray, we were getting him earlier on in the year. We were getting like 40 something rush yards, what I'm saying, for him overall. So that line's too low for me. So I'm definitely taking that. Next Next game we go into is A-Rich over 42.5 rush yards, and then Stevenson over 51.5 rush yards. I expel this game as a game where it's going to be, I don't want to say low scoring, but it's like these defense should hone in on rushing the football a little bit more. You could take Taylor as well for the rush yards. I just felt like Anthony Richardson should go with the guy who has the ball in his hands a little bit more. We all know Richardson's going to look to try to scramble out of stuff. Patriots play 30, a great ton of man coverage, and when it comes to Anthony Richardson, we know he's going to look to take off. So, especially if he can't, like we saw that earlier. We saw that last week, and in the matchup against the Lions, where he just started taking off when he couldn't find anybody beating man coverage. So, expect to see it again. Will Levis over 205 pass yards. Back-to-back games, at least he went over this line big time the last couple of games. So this line's way too low for me. It's an error. So definitely taking this. In a game in which the Titans are an underdog, if we expect the Commanders to come out and do what they need to do, then Will Levis, he should get over this line. We like Ridley as well. Both of us, me and John, do. So it makes a ton of sense to like Will Levis. Justin Herbert over 246.5 pass yards. Seeing this line go down a little bit. It was like 250 and 251, and now it's like 246. So depending on your book, I definitely would test to take Justin Herbert. He's been phenomenal, and now he has no J.K. Dobbins. Now it's like basically he's got running backs, so you're just gonna get the ball to just to kind of just take the game for not being so pass heavy. So Justin Herbert, this feels like a great discount to take overall. The 4 p.m. matchups. Cooper Kupp, baby. Whew. White chocolate, baby.
I love it.
69.5 receiving yards. The over for that, because Cooper Kupp is, like we talked about earlier, has, he's 8th best when it comes to slot corner matchups this year, and we just expect him to get that when it comes to just usage. You can take the 6.5 over for catches, but I just feel a little bit more confident with receiving yards at the moment. So you can go either or, but I'm taking the 69.5. Bucky Irving, talked about him earlier, over 57.5 rush yards. Again, that line's too cheap. And then Jalen Hurts over 228 pass yards. Talked about the over 2.5 receptions for Barkley already. Hurts, a game where game environments, it's going to have to spell for him to throw the football a little bit more, and for this game to be a bit more competitive, not to get the game so much out of reach. The Eagles, at some point, the regression for them passing is going to have to turn, because they've been one of the more rush-heavy offenses this season, and now they're running into a matchup where the Ravens do shut down the rush pretty well. So I expect the over 228 should hit here, because they should be throwing more with Jalen Hurts. And that's where I see fit. Those are all the props for this week in the next prop shop. Next we got Johnny's going to talk about his lock of the slate for our DFS lineups this week. I already got mine. What you got, Johnny?
Yeah, man. One of the players, actually, there's quite a few players like I actually like this week. At quarterback, man, I'm looking at paying down. I'm looking at getting men to Will Levis is somebody that I do like this week. I just think like the game environment we talked about, with the Commanders and the Titans. I think that one has some shootout. And then Jalen Hurts is paying up. It's kind of hard not to like him in that situation for sure. And then at running back, it's Bucky Irving. Like we talked about him quite a bit, like here today. I think it's starting to become more clear, more evident that he is the guy there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And obviously the game situation, like we talked about, like, all the opportunities they're going to have today against the Carolina Panthers in that game environment. And then a wide receiver, man, I'm going to continue to keep beating the drum for it. I think everybody's starting to – I've seen a couple of articles already kind of pop. But I think this is just – it's a Nico Collins day, man. Like, I think it's a Nico Collins day. I think that game might end up getting weird in terms of just the Jags hanging around. So I like him. I think Joe Mixon gets back on track today as well. I know he's a running back, obviously, but just kind of thinking about that game as a whole. That's kind of where I'm at, man. Like as far as as far as like some of my plays, like on like the DFS side of things, I like Bijan and Kamara, like for sure. I'm gonna kind of see like how it plays out. Obviously, with the 4 o'clock slates, like with my tournaments, playing single game entries today. If it's looking good, and I'm ahead of the field, then I might try to get different and try to maybe possibly, I'll say, take down the field. But if I am behind the 8 ball, then I might just write it out with Kamara. But that's where I'm at, man. Like for me, and then like I'm not even gonna say the other quarterback I'm gonna play. I'll let Nick say it, but I don't want to talk about it because it makes me sick to even think that I'm even thinking that. So
he's thinking about playing Bryce Young, people. He's thinking about playing Bryce Young, people. That's the type of slate we're at right now. That makes sense. I mean, everyone in the world expects the Panthers to be down in this game, and it makes a ton of sense. 4,700. Oh, we're asking for Bryce Young is what, like 14 points?
Yeah,
something like that.
In an environment where the Buccaneers, in an environment where the Buccaneers, like, they're going to score points, so it should go back and forth. So we'll see. Either I'm just going to look like an asshole, or the next time you guys talk to me, I'll be like, hey, man, I got $200 richer, man.
Makes sense. A Miracle is asking, he's down 10 points, started 2 players, he started 4. So should I run the Rams or Vikings defense in a must win and up against Kyler Marvin stack? Oh, interesting. I have Kyler in one league and John has Marvin in our league. We're facing each other this week. So
yeah.
Hopefully Brees Hall doesn't hit his projection. Oh.
Love it. I love it.
Rams defense or the Vikings defense? I'm gonna that's definitely tough because
the Cardinals I don't think it's that tough.
I'm going to Rams. The Cardinals score any points. If it's a Kyler Murray Marvin Stack touchdown and he has the Vikings defense, that's a double whammy. So that's the problem there. The Rams have been better at creating pressure over the last 6 weeks. I just don't know how advantage of a matchup they get on the road against Derek Carr and this offense that's looked a little bit more better the last couple of weeks. So this is a little more tougher than people would say. But I'll give me the Vikings because they are a team that gets a ton of pressure on quarterbacks, blitzes. So stuff like that. You're hoping that when starting the Vikings that they keep this game locked up for this Cardinals offense. But I think, being down 10 points is not terrible.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Depending on what the rest of your roster looks like too, like we could give you critiques on that too. But I would say the Vikings, just because they've been playing a lot better defensively, like, they're at least, even if the Cardinals do score some points, there's still some opportunities for them to get some sacks. I don't expect the Rams to hold down the Saints, and they probably could score more points in that matchup. So that's where I think I'm going to take the Vikings. Just because they'll give you some pushback when it comes to even if they do get scored on, the sacks, potentially interception, stuff like that.
Yeah, see, I'm in the exact opposite boat, man. Like, I like the Rams, like, for sure. Just because, like, we talked about, like, the Vikings have been giving some up in the passing game. So, like, if you are going to play the Vikings, like, maybe you just hope that, like, they get a couple of turnovers or a couple of big plays on the defensive side of the ball, for sure. The Rams, like, they have been a little bit vulnerable as far as the run game goes. So, like, if you were thinking, like, hey, the Rams are going to continue to be vulnerable, maybe it's just less possessions and less plays ran. So maybe it's death by 1,000 paper cuts versus, just the big plays potentially for the Vikings. But like the next point, man, being down 10 points, not the end of the world for sure. And maybe there's some additional options for you out there on defense that maybe you can play. I know DFS side of things, I know, like, the Patriots is a defense that, like, I wouldn't be opposed to playing. I'm playing them in DFS. I think if the Seahawks are out there, you have to take them into consideration as well. We talked about that a little bit before the show with the Jets. So I think there's definitely, there should be some additional options for you out there on the defensive side of the ball. And if there is, man, take a look at that and maybe slow roll it and see what you got.
Vikings, 91% of the money is on right now. Jesus.
Checks out.
Oh, Lord. But yeah, lock of the slate for me. Talked about him a couple times already. He's a cover boy. It's Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettis, 8,100 on DraftKings. Like I talked about, the matchup he gets is, one of the best in the league in terms of receiver versus corner matchups. And again, what I should we be shocked that Justin Jefferson just balls out and scores 2 touchdowns today? No. I think he does get back on track though. I already took him for the over 81.5 receiving yards. I expect him potentially to score a touchdown at plus 125. This has to be the bounce back spot for Justin Jefferson this week. If the Vikings have any hope of trying to get consistently in their, in the playoff hunt and staying there, like Justin Jefferson has to make a stamp in this game. I know people like Aaron Jones a little bit, but I'm like, just give me Justin Jefferson. I think it's going to be really solid for you. Johnny, we come to the end of the episode.
All right. Final thoughts. Obviously, big game in Cincy. Yeah, you're right. You already know I'm about to get ready to talk my shit. Big game in Cincy. Obviously, for Pittsburgh, I'll always talk about my boys for sure. I think they can shut up a lot of naysayers with a big win here today in Cincy. Here, they're gonna have to see him again anyway here in the next handful of weeks, just as they will everybody else in the division. Chargers and Falcons, man. We talked about that was our opening game, man. I think that's a really, really interesting game. For sure for both parties involved. And then my last one, because actually I'll take 2 and I won't take everything, but I think the other one that's really interesting for me, obviously, is the Eagles and Ravens. Just to see who ends up on the other side of things. Obviously, I'm rooting for the Eagles for a lot of different reasons. Shocker alert. Shocker. But I think like we mentioned, man. Yeah, like we mentioned, this could be a potential MVP game, offensive player of the year game for all parties involved. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then just a really interesting caveat is Bucks and Panthers. I keep talking about this game. We're going to continue to see Bryce Young playing better football? And is Bucky Irving going to solidify himself as the undoubted number 1 guy in that running back room? So those are a couple things that I'm taking a look at today, man.
I think that's a good way to look at that. Because usage-wise, he's been through the roof at least the last matchup as well. So it remains to be seen how that goes. I think final thoughts for me is, look, I think when it comes to your fantasy football matchups for season long, it's do or die at this point. There's going to be 6 teams on bye next week, right before the week before the playoffs begin. So look, you got about another 40 or so minutes till 1 p.m. game start. Take a look at your waiver wire real quick. Find out if there's someone sleeping on your waiver wire. Because I've already seen a couple of guys that, I may have probably want to stash, but I didn't want to drop for one. But look at your waiver wires and find out if there's someone out there. Kamani Vidal. Maybe still on, we talked about likely this year. Maybe you still want to stash him just in case. There's guys out there that there's still guys out there that you may still want to stash up and look to see what happens. But you just never know, who might go down. Kenneth Gainwell might be out there. Pick him up because you never know. Justice Hill, he's still probably out there because people don't expect him to get a ton of usage every week, but you just never know. These are the times where you got to double check your waiver wires constantly to make sure people are not out there that you think you believe in, that could really still do well. If you guys haven't done so already, please follow us on X at Nick_Wilcox25. Our guy, Johnny Main, 37185 on X. If you guys listen to us on Spotify, we definitely appreciate that as well. If you are, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, the DA Fantasy Football Show on YouTube. With that being said, Johnny, anything else you want to say to the final people before we go?
Open up the Facebook page too if you happen to be listening out there, or a friend of the program. Subscribe, like, stop through, ask some questions as well. We got the links up there for the fantasy football page on YouTube, and obviously my own personal link as well. So yeah,
perfect. Next show we got is Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern. Getting down to the nitty gritty. Like I said, 6 teams on bye for upcoming week 14. We'll give you guys all the waiver wire advice as well that we got for you. And any questions you guys got, feel free to do so. That being said, we are out. Good luck to everybody in your lineups this week. Peace out.